Okay, great. So this one, which you should be seeing now, the one that you should be seeing now is saying where to have a website and includes a big table of different platforms. Can you see it? Okay, fantastic. So this, if you wish, you can take a screenshot of that. I wouldn't be completely sure about everything being completely correct because I've created this one about a month or two ago. So it's possible that since then some of the numbers changed, but generally it's correct. So these are some of the most often platforms that people use. So these are some of the platforms that people use most often. WordPress, as I said, is the extremely customizable version, and that's why people use it because you can do absolutely anything with it, especially if you're a coder. You can go wild with WordPress. You can completely customize it. You can create a world of wonder for yourself. But if you are a beginner in websites or you don't really want to spend hours and hours thinking about and learning how to adjust things, then that might not be the best one for you. Also, WordPress requires you to buy your domain and requires you to buy a hosting, which is a separate part of the know-how. Nothing is really hard. There's Google for everything. There's YouTube tutorials, of course. But if you want something easy, that's probably not the one for you. The reason why I didn't want to go ahead with to proceed with WordPress is because albeit you can do anything, there are many add-ons that need to be updated very often, and it's very very often that you can wake up one day and half of your website doesn't work because you forgot to update something or you haven't um, switched on the auto update of something, or you might have to pay for some of the add-ons. Like if you want to have a commerce, you have to buy the rights to use that e-commerce add-on, which are a lot of them. That's a part of what you need to discuss about it. So the next one, which is incredibly popular, is Squarespace, which you might have come across after watching a bunch of YouTube videos, because Squarespace like to market themselves by using YouTube influencers. Squarespace is an all-inclusive platform, which means that you just need to buy your domain. And sometimes I believe that it's still the case that if you pay for 1 year in advance, they gift you the domain. And you can see that there are a bunch of numbers about how much it costs a month if you pay yearly. Um, there is an additional payment that you can opt in if you wish to use their superior marketing tools, which are really amazing. It's really a well-rounded platform. I really like it. It has some really, really dope templates. It looks really well, and many professional businesses use it, and it's easy to navigate. Um, it might be a little expensive for people or not so much. Really depends on what you can afford. Um, there is Shopify, which is the next platform. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to mention the ones that I think are most prominent and you're going to come across most often. So Shopify, I would use if I actually have some kind of a product that I want to move. They're extremely good with their business tools, which means that you're going to have a lot of help with accounting, a lot of help with the shipping of things if you have a physical product. And it's also a really well-rounded platform. And you can see a lot of businesses and a lot of people using it because it's just so easy to use. It's all inclusive and you also have to buy your domain. Usually domains, I personally buy my domains in a platform called Namecheap, and they usually cost somewhere between, I don't know, $7 and $30. It really depends. if you have a domain which is a traditional .com domain, I think that's $20 a year, something like this. But you can get really creative with the extensions now. You can have .art, .studio. My personal favorite is .xyz. This is the one I chose because for me it just feels most playful and and drew me the most. And at the time that I did my website, Borya.xyz, I didn't really have a lot of money. Like I had almost close to zero money to spend, zero budget to spend on this, but I really wanted to have a good website. And I kind of saw that .xyz cost $7 for the first 2 years. So that was perfect for me. And other platforms that I would love to mention, the other one platform I would love to mention is Cargo. This is one that people don't usually know about, but it's a San Francisco company that is pretty spectacular. They make amazing templates which are completely geared towards artists. So Cargo is entirely geared towards artists and artist portfolios. It's probably one of the most expensive ones on this list, but I would say that it's also really, really useful. They have supreme customer support. I don't know if it's because not that many millions people use it, but every time I've had any kind of issue, because I'm not a professional on this, um, uh, they would answer within 24 hours to my queries. And if you're not able to follow their instructions, they offer to actually do it for you if you want to. So Cargo is a really, really wonderful platform, and I highly recommend it for anything. So you can see that there are other platforms here. I'm not going to go into them, but you can actually find probably 1,000 more of these. What's important to note when you're using a platform, when you're looking for a platform, is how much you're going to be paying monthly or yearly, whether it offers commerce if you need that, and what are the special circumstances that you can use in that regard? Because sometimes some places offer you free domains, other places offer you free other stuff. Um, you also need to check out the templates. And also, I would advise you to check out whether they have a free time, so free trial, because sometimes you can really like using some kind of a platform, but it would turn out that it's really uncomfortable for you, inconvenient, or you wouldn't be able to understand how to use it specifically. I'm not talking about the learning curve that everything takes, but just that some things just don't make sense for you. Like, for example, I've tried Wix, which I know many people use it, but it just didn't make sense for me the way that things work. And I know it's an amazing platform, but it just again didn't make sense for me. So you can screenshot this page and you can use that as a guide, or you can just remember how to what I said here and just use my guidelines or not. Free country, free world. Um, okay. Okay, so the next slide that should be on your screen is something that I discovered a few years ago, and that's a Chrome extension called Wapalizer. It used to be a little better, honestly, and it used to show you a lot more information, but even this is really good. So Wapalizer is something that shows you all the technology that's being utilized when creating a certain website. There is a paid version of it, but it's generally free. And sometimes it's really useful to check out what pages people are using, or if they use Google Analytics, if they use any kind of specific language, programming language. It can be really useful, and also it's free. So if you're going down the rabbit hole of building a website, that might be useful for you. Okay, so let's dive into the strategy, how to create the strategy of your website. Why is this important? Websites are fairly simple to create and fairly simple to plan out if you know who you are as an artist. Um, so maybe you do video art. Maybe you need more of a video. Maybe you do images and you need stunning templates that have large scale image files presenting. Maybe you do word art. So maybe you write books or things like this. It's probable that you have some kind of merch that you're selling. It really depends on who you are as an artist, and your website could be completely different from a person who does something similar to your art, but it could be completely different. So some things that are very important to have in your website. Can you see this slide with a bunch of fruit? Fantastic, thanks. So on the top three boxes are what you really need to have in a website. Like that's the bare bones of your website. You have to have some kind of an about page, or a portion of your website needs to say something about you. So that might be your bio, your artist statement, any CVs, any press. Press is great. Press is amazing. If you have appeared in press, even if you were just mentioned in a sentence, just slap that there. It's really great to know that you've done things and that um, you've been mentioned somewhere. It's just useful for people to see that they're not the only ones who like you. Um, Residencies, education, that's also good if it's important, if it's relevant for you. Education, as we know, some places really think that education is important for artists. Other places wouldn't don't care at all about education or anything. So if it's relevant to you, if it's important to you, just put it over there. That would be great. Teaching experience, anything that shows your diligence and work, anything that you've done is great to use. So I believe we already had the class with Fanny Lacoube, and something that she told me when she was advising me on how to upgrade my website was that um, you have to put yourself out there. You have to be able to write down everything that you did, even if it's just in writing, even if it's just in your CV, just so that people can see that it's there. I've heard of the opposite being true as well. There are some people who choose not to put a lot about themselves on their websites just so that they can keep the mystery. Again, this would really depend on what kind of person you are and what you want to achieve with your website. So these are just guidelines, really. So another thing that's obviously needs to be on your website is your work. Um, your portfolio needs to list all the work you think is relevant. And something that I used to do before was I used to skip on older work because for me it was boring. By the time that I had things up, for me it was already boring. You know how things are. You create something and then 1 year later you don't really find it. I mean, you love it or you hate it or anything. You have emotions towards it, but it's not exactly as exciting as it is as anything that you're doing right now is. However, we shouldn't do the mistake of completely forgetting it, because something that I used to do is I would just put my blockchain art on my website. However, I've been an artist, like a I've had an art practice since 2008, and I've been doing art since probably 2000, the early 2000s. And if I don't put that on the website, regardless of how exciting or relevant it is to me today, nobody's going to know. There's no way for them to know if I had an exhibition, if I did any kind of installations or anything before the time that I started doing blockchain art. So yeah, don't cut yourself short and put your art there. It's you never know who will like what from your art and become your fan and greatest admirer and maybe collector. And then the third really important thing you need to do is your contact. So as much as we like to be anonymous, and if you choose to be anonymous, there still should be some kind of contact. So if you have any social media, that should be there. If you would like to put your email there, obviously that's where you put it. And for God's sakes, put your links to your NFTs there, because I see so many websites where people just don't link their NFTs. Some people say that they don't want to do it because they are um, traditional, they are more traditionally accepted, and they are scared that people are going to think that if they do NFTs, that this means that they somehow are not as professional as the traditional art world artists, which is very weird. And I hope that we are past this by now. But yeah, it's it's really frustrating when you go to an NFT artist's website and you can't find the links to their NFTs, and you would have to look for them in the platforms themselves. Um, so other things that you might want to include in your website are exhibitions. This could be just an addition to your work box, but it could be a separate one, because sometimes your work is not exhibited all the times, or it's created for a commission or something like this. So just a quick notion that these two could be separate if you want to. So if you have the inclination to write blog posts, journals, articles, if you're into writing, this could be incredibly useful for you, because this is not such a big secret, but using blog posts could um, raise your traffic towards your site without people actually knowing you. So they could find you via a really good blog post that you write. We all know that. That's also a way for you to share news for you. So news are also something like a journal, and news are actually really, really useful. So news can be used as your art practice. So you know how sometimes you might not, so you have times in your life when you're really excited to create art, and there seems like there's so much lined up. You have this and that show, and then another show, and then an exhibition somewhere else, and something, and then there are these dry runs when it seems like nothing is happening. Now if you have a news portion of your website, you would like to keep it occupied, you would like to have something happening over there. And in my opinion, this would push you a little more towards creating the opportunities for yourself. So just looking towards seeing, okay, what can I do this month so that I can write that I have this happening. It might be a little backwards thinking, so it's the other way around. Usually you should be having things and then putting them into news. And then even the even newscasters actually don't have news all the time, but they have to fill up the news. So this is how we have news. Sometimes they're not as exciting as we want, but this is a good practice to have. And I would suggest that you would keep doing it. Now, this goes really well into what I mean by a website being a practice, more than just something that you use. So first, you use websites as practice for provenance. You keep track and update links to your work for yourself, for curators, for collectors that really want to know who you are and what you're doing. A really well updated website can be your best friend in showing yourself more. You don't have to rely on Twitter, you don't have to rely on Instagram or any kind of promotion that goes outside of you if you are very good at keeping your website updated. Um, and also check that the links work very often, because sometimes people would change the name of the links and they would not work. And of course, it happens to all of us that some things do not work on our websites, but I would just take the time to click on everything on my website just to make sure that everything works every once in a while. Doesn't need to be every day because it would be too demanding of a time, but definitely make sure that you do that because it's really frustrating when you go to a really good website and then you try to go and consume everything that a person that a really good artist had done, and when you click on a bunch of links and they don't work and then they don't lead anywhere, it's just like a huge letdown. So practice building. If you keep your website alive, if you update it often, people will know that are a self-starter. People will see that you're serious about your practice. Just a second. Sorry about that. Um, so it's really a great thing to show that that you're not just going around life without having a plan or a purpose for things. Your art deserves your attention, and the art career is a career as anything else, I believe, at least in my opinion, and it just requires a lot of diligence and a lot of practice. And if you have no news, just seek to create opportunities so there's something to share often or as often as it's convenient to you. That doesn't mean that you have to go out of your way and your comfort zone too much to create fake opportunities, but just push yourself. Think about what you can add to your website this month, what can be relevant this month, and embed social media if you've got wins there. So I've embedded some some tweets that people have tweeted about me when someone said that my art was great or something I did was lovely. It's just like it just makes you feel happy to look at your own website. It's weird and maybe could be a little self-indulgent, but I believe it just keeps you going, especially in those days when you're wondering whether you should keep going because the art career is not very easy, as we all know. For some people it is. For others, it's really complicated, and some people have problems with depression, like for example me, and it's really great to have those wins easily accessible to you. This is the practice part of the website. You can always go to your website yourself, and you can see, oh yeah, I did this month. So, and I am looking towards a few months later. Then now I'm going to be having this amazing show. So there is a lot to look forward to, and look at all the amazing content I've already created, and look that I have friends and I have had shows, and I've not wasted my life. Everything is great. So this is incredibly important. So the mental health portion of having a website, I have never heard anyone mention that before ever. So just mention that to yourselves every once in a while, that if you do your website really well and you go to it when you're feeling low, that's one of the best cheerleader that you can have. Accountability is one of the main things. So you can easily see what you've started, and you can go on to get it completed. Like, for example, what I've done sometimes is in the news, in the upcoming section of my news, I would say, okay, I have this and this and this upcoming, and I know that it's out there. Now, probably not many people visit my website, but I know it's there. I know I've said it. I said that I'm going to do this. And for me, integrity is super important. And even if it's just for my own safe and self and my own sake, I would totally go through with something that I said happened, especially in writing. So that's the practice of the website, which is my favorite part of it. Everyone can have a website, but updating it and using it as your own personal art practice, that's really where it's at for me. Now, the last thing I'm going to mention is to consider Web3. And I'm pretty sure that there are many people who know a lot more about Web3 than I do. But just to be on the safe side, I'm just going to mention that Web3 as a decentralized environment, we know that that would be a lot better than having any kind of platform that I mentioned before, owning your content. And let's say Squarespace decided to raise their subscription rate, or that they decided that you no longer can use Purple. That's completely in their right. That is in their right. If they say, okay, Purple doesn't go well with our brand aesthetics, you would have to comply because this is not your platform. So that's why going a step further would be considering Web3. The problems with Web3 right now is that there are not Web3 is not that easily accessible, and you will have to go down a deeper rabbit hole to be able to create your Web3 website. But it's as achievable as creating a Web2 website. So if that's something that you are willing to do, I would highly suggest just Googling. There is a simple tutorial that I have here. And let me check if I can share that. So it really is not a very complicated tutorial, and it doesn't even say that much. But it just inspires you to see that it's really easy. It's really not as hard as we sometimes think things are. And sometimes the answers to what we need are just on the other end of a YouTube search. So yeah, that's basically everything I wanted to share. Thank you so much for listening to this short presentation. And as I've said on this slide, allow yourself to be inspired to create your own virtual property for your art practice, own the conversation with your audience, and sell your work on your own terms. That's pretty much all you need in regards to a website. And yeah, I would open up the floor to some questions now. What do you think of Webflow? Let me see. I don't know about this, but Google goes a long way. So, oh, they're based in San Francisco, where cargo is as well. So this already says something for me, which might be nothing, but let me see. So Webflow, build a website. It looks cool. Oh, it looks easy. It looks like that it's very. So what I like about this is that it's really easy to see what you're doing in real time. So there's no doing a backend something that then you have to refresh the page and to see what it actually looks like, which is great. Cargo also does that, and I think most of the platform builders are trying to achieve that right now because um, having that save or refresh of a page is just time consuming, and some people don't want to go through that, so it's really cool. You can give it a go. Ivan, I can see that you have a question. You can go ahead and ask it.
Hey there, Borya. How you doing? Hi, everyone. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. I have a little bit of experience, but basic experience. I learned everything that I know through YouTube tutorials. Back in 2010, I used to have I created a art blog, and with WordPress, and I could customize everything that I could to make it look like one of those cool sites from the moment, like Boom or Colossal or those blogs. And I used to share art from other artists back in the day. But when I wanted to create my own website, I found out that WordPress wasn't that like ideal for me. It was like more for blogging. So I also, because of the price, I created a website with format.com. But so and I liked it, but the thing is that it's much more like focused on imagery, on photograph, illustrators, and it used to work well for me back then. But now that most of my works are animations, I feel like it might not be like the best fit for me. What I wanted to ask you is if you know about a platform that would be like good for showing animations on full screen or without seeing the animation controls, like when you embed something, or like when you post a YouTube link on Twitter or something. And also, uh, well, I saw that you shared a tutorial about Web3, because that's the other thing that I wanted to ask you about, how to, now that I'm thinking about creating a new one, I wanted to optimize it, like offering my NFTs. I don't know if there's a tool to to like implement or like import your manifold stuff in your website or anything like that. Just wanted to a little of your to share a little bit of your knowledge. What would it be your recommendation? And thank you.
Thanks for asking the questions. They're really great ones. In regards to your animations, what is the file format that you're using for them? Are they videos? Are they GIFs or GIFs?
And now I'm working with MP4s, videos, because when I created the site and format, I used to have like a side scrolling gallery with a
Mhm.
lot of images, and one of the images was a GIF. But the thing is that it's they are too heavy, and I used to do it because I had a lot of animation, still images, and just one animation. And when people were like looking at the animations, it gave me enough gave the GIF enough time to load, because it was like I think it was like 75 megabytes GIF or something like that, which is not ideal for web.
Mhm. Well, what I would say is that it really depends on how you're going to do it. So what I usually do is I upload the required videos on either YouTube or Vimeo, and I would suggest Vimeo because for some reason it just loads quicker on websites, and then afterwards you just embed it in that said website, whichever website you're using. So this is how I do it. I'm sharing something right now, which is from my website. Um, and so this is how I've added some walkthroughs from some of the spaces, the Metaverse spaces I've worked on. As you can see, this is in YouTube. This is something that people usually do when created their websites. Now, if I refresh that page, you can see that it takes a little while for it to load because it's short. But then I also have a Vimeo picture, a video here. You would have to start it, it doesn't start automatically, but I think that there are ways, depending on the different platforms, there are ways um, that you can um, embed it in a way that it automatically starts. So this is how I do it. However, you can see that it's just a little one specifically for me. I like to have this large white space. It just feels cool for me. But specifically in this page, I've embedded 3 videos, and they just start really well. Whenever I start them, it's really easy for me to watch them and for a person to watch them. So does this answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, I see what you mean. But that's exactly what I wanted to ask. If there's a way to so that they play automatically, but I guess that
There
you
is.
mentioned it.
There is,
Yeah.
specifically for the one that I'm using, the platform Cargo that I'm using. The only reason why they are so tiny is because I've decided to make them so tiny. However, there is a way for you to specifically in Cargo, but I don't think that this is the only platform that does it. But you can actually do them, make them as a background of your website. They can even start playing automatically when you're checking them out. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you right now on my website because I got to go on the back end. But what what I've been able to do is just use the video as a background of the website and just don't write anything on top of it or write something which you will have to scroll down for the text if you need any text for it to show up right then.
Mm.
So when someone lands on that website, everything that they see on the entire screen is that video that automatically plays. Um, and the funny part in this is that if you can still do it in the exactly same way that I did it on that website. So you just need to have it uploaded somewhere, and you need to have it uploaded but unlisted. You know, if you don't want people to see it in your YouTube or Vimeo profile, you just upload it and then have it as unlisted. Then it's not showing up on the profile on that platform, but it will be embeddable on that website.
Oh, okay. That's what I wanted to know because I used to have a couple of videos on my website, and I know maybe I didn't know how to do it at format.com. But what I didn't want is that people leave the website to see the video on YouTube. I wanted them to see it, to keep the viewer inside my website instead of going to YouTube and then keep up scrolling and watching my other videos. That, but maybe that would be
Mhm.
my solution.
Yeah, that could be a really great solution if you choose to do that. Just so you know that Cargo is that the tutorials on Cargo are super simple. Again, I would have to tell you and state that again that I'm not any kind of software engineer or any kind of computer geek. I just decided that I wanted to have a website, and afterwards it becomes really easy to just and also perseverance. You know, it's you just have to check it out. But um, specifically for Cargo, because after I tried WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, I tried them all, and after I found Cargo, I've just sticked with it for the past 4 years, I think, and I really really like it. But it does give you that opportunity, so it allows you to do what you wish. And then your second question was about Web3. I would suggest that for Web3 and integrations on Web3, you should reach out to Phil. He's incredibly busy most of the time, but he could be able to point you out to someone who is a Web3 whiz and could um, share how to add a manifold to your website. But I think it shouldn't be hard because I think I've seen it done, but I cannot be completely sure. Um, but it is possible. I believe that if a certain element of the internet is embeddable, that way you can just embed it to your website. It really wouldn't be that hard, I believe. I think actually Phil has embedded things on the VCA gallery from Manifold, so he might be able to tell you, but I might be completely mistaken. So yeah, my advice would be just DM Phil, and he would be able to point you in the right direction from there on. Uh, Thanks, Amanda, for your kind words, and Carolina as well. And yeah, that's exactly what I mean when what you're saying here in your comment is I was considering using the Adobe website because it's linked to Behance, but I didn't really like the fact that it didn't have my name in the URL. That's exactly what I mean when I say own your property and own the conversation. And because if Adobe decides to change their rules and regulations about the Adobe website tomorrow, you're basically, you know, you will have to comply with whatever they say. But if you have your own domain and your own hosting, which if you use WordPress, you would have to purchase your own hosting. But if you use one of the platforms that already offer it, you wouldn't have to go through that much. So if you have that, you pretty much can change anything that you wish on your website. No one can tell you anything, especially if you choose to do a Web3 site, because that's completely decentralized. And you wouldn't even they wouldn't be able to even censor you that much if you need to say something that's more scandalous. Let me see for other questions. That's amazing that you're sharing so many so many useful things in the chat. I'm so happy for that. Even I don't know about these things, and it's such a great thing that we're opening up the conversation about this. Really amazing. NFT embed, that sounds awesome. Cool, 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 cool. Does anyone have any other questions? Thanks, Emily. It's really nice to know that my experience is useful for other people other than me. As I mentioned, I've been trying to have a really good looking website, and good looking in my own terms, not on anybody else's terms, for years now. And I've went through most of the platforms, and I found that this one that I'm using right now works very well for me. But yeah, that's something else that I was thinking of sharing after what Ivan mentioned. If it might be so that one platform works really well for you today, but tomorrow you change your mind, or you change your art, or you need something else, you don't need to stay with it. You can have your go at any kind of platform or anything at all. And fingers crossed that all of our art careers go to the place um, where we can afford someone to do that for us. We can pay to have a person to update and do the websites for us. That would be also amazing. We don't have to do it ourselves if we can afford a professional to do it for us. So that's also going to be great. And I wish all of us to have a great time on the web, and to have our own special presence in there, and to use the website as a real great tool as a real step towards gaining our goals, and having fun as well. Last thing, I'm going to ask you if you have any more questions, and if not, I'm going to wrap this up and go and check out what's happening with my baby and my partner, who is taking care of him right now. Own your domain. Absolutely. Own your domain. There are various providers indeed. There are so many ways for you to buy your domain, and so many places to do that. And interestingly enough, you can find different prices on the same domain on other places. There's also Unstoppable Domains, which offer Web3 domains, which is also great. Hover is great as well. Just it's such a rabbit hole, honestly. It's just we're just here. I'm honestly just peeking through the curtains of an entire world of wonder when you're thinking about websites, especially now. If you start checking out the websites of some of the creative coders that you can find on FX Hash and on Twitter, you can be amazed at what people can do if they know a little bit of code. It's just such a stunning experience to check out some of the websites over there on the web. They are completely different. They don't look like anything that you've seen before, and they make the world a little bit more interesting. And you definitely know that artist went the route of creating an experience for his fans and for his followers. So that's also an amazing thing to do. Yeah, having in mind that if you use Chrome or actually any kind of browser that you're using has automated translate option, you can also venture into checking out what other countries are offering, um, especially countries that are that might be offering things on a lower budget. If you have a lower budget, you can find amazing things. Usually things cost pretty much the same and they are similar, but you can absolutely find gems out there. And this goes to say that you definitely have to have a little bit of a budget to create your own website um, by owning your domain and hosting and maybe paying monthly or yearly for a service. But of course, if that's not available to you, if you don't have the budget to spend, you can still create your free website. Just get it out there, just start working on that. And it's very probable that this is going to bring you some kind of a revenue from somewhere. Someone's going to find it if you work hard enough on that, and you would be able to then step to the next level. You don't have to start with something paid. You can just start with something free, just so that you can um, just feel yourself out there, and afterwards you can check out if you wish to buy something. But yeah. Oh yeah, critique on each other's websites would be amazing too. I would definitely suggest doing that, and you will notice that it's very similar. Things are very similar between websites. They usually contain something about some info about the artist's work, and then the contact details. But every once in a while, you're going to find that there are some really cool websites where there are extra stuff there, and it's really fun. It's really fun, at least for me. Okay, well, that said, I want to thank you so much for coming to this class. It's kind of a short one, and I do hope that I was able to provide some information beyond what's completely easily accessible. I will remind you that having a website can be a practice and can add to your art practice, can add a lot to your art practice if you take it seriously to update your website and to um, use it as a tool for accountability for yourself and your art. And I'm looking forward to seeing your websites again because, as you know, I've checked out all your websites during the selection process for the residency. So um, it's really exciting that this time around, for the last couple of cohorts, I've seen that people have websites now. So it's really not a new concept for people to have websites, and really you hardly have to explain why you have to own a website now. And it's becoming really easy for a person to have a website and not so expensive anymore. So let's go wild with it. Let's go ahead and show what we can do, and use it to our best advantage and put our best foot forward, and just experiment with it. It's really not such a big deal. It's a great thing to just play around with it. And yeah, my cat also wants to say thanks for being here. And hit me up if you have any questions. I really respond really slowly these days, but I will respond if you write sooner or later. And I'm wishing all of you amazing times with your websites.